Yeah, hello everyone. Very good afternoon. How are you all doing? How's it going? Can you please let me know in the chat? All good? Okay. So I think yeah, we can get started now. So all right. So I think welcome to this masterclass, which is on launching your career in software development, and specifically we are going to talk about web development, right? Because that is the initial pathway to getting started in the field of software development, right? So that is what we are going to essentially discuss, and I hope everyone is yeah enjoying this um, late afternoon on Saturday. All right. Okay. So let me just put out the agenda for this masterclass today. We are not going to spend a lot of time, right? So probably we are going to wrap up in the next 60, 70 minutes. All right. And then we'll, of course, be available for Q&A. But we want to start first by asking ourselves, what is even web development, right? So that is what we are going to begin with, and then we are going to understand what is the roadmap to learning full stack web development, right? If you are looking to become a full stack web developer, what is the roadmap that you need to take, right? So we are going to discuss about that. Then we're also going to talk a bit about what are the job roles and the skills required, what are the companies requiring in you, so that you can do that job or task successfully. All right. We'll also talk about how to nail interviews, as in we'll discuss about common interview questions, which I also keep asking. Let's say someone who am I, whoever I'm trying to hire, or let's say I'm taking mock interviews of our students in AlmaBetter. So basically, there are certain set of questions that I have in mind, which will give you an idea as in how what kind of questions to expect in the interview, right? And then I think our team will give you a preview of our flagship full stack web development course. So please stay tuned, and then at the end, we'll be open for doing this Q&A. So there is a Q&A section in your AirMeet event, so you can put in your questions there and we will pick up those at the end. All right. Okay, awesome. So let's get started. First of all, before I even talk about all of this, right, I just want to talk a bit about myself, right? I'm not being narcissist here, but the idea is you should know, as in who you are, let's say, hearing from or learning from, just to, let's say, get some idea as in what I have been doing and why am I even here, right? So I'll just give you a basic idea about, let's say, what I have been doing so far, right? So I'll just so think of this timeline, right? And this is, let's say, I am this yeah kid at in 2012, right? I just got into IIT KGP, right? And I spent 4 years there doing BTech in civil engineering. And even though I didn't end up becoming a civil engineer, but I started my career in data science, right? So data science was something, and machine learning was something very enticing to me, and that is how I sort of began, basically. So for the next so in 2017, 2018, in fact till 2020, right? So I worked for like 4 years, right? So I worked in 4 years. I worked for 4 years in data science, and that is, of course, it was the primary job that I have been doing, right? And I worked at companies like American Express, HSBC, Global Analytics, and I learned a good deal of things during these 4 years, right? So I learned how data science is applied in the industry, right? And how to do modeling, how to build strategy, how to do, let's say, do NLP. So I have had some fair share of experience in this domain. And then in 2020, basically, I decided along with my co-founders that, hey, I think we should do something. We can teach people data science initially. That is where our initial expertise was. And we started AlmaBetter, right? So we co-founded AlmaBetter in 2020 late. Okay. So this is where AlmaBetter sort of began, right? So, and then as of now, for the last 3 or 4 years, I am primarily an educator, I would say, before even being a founder and an entrepreneur. So I really I love teaching students. I like interacting with them. And for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been focused on building the platform and the technological infrastructure which is required to sustain this scale of things or operations that we are doing throughout our, let's say, business, right, where we're trying to give quality education to people. And then in 2022, right, we launched our another program, which is of course the web development program, right? So we got some experience ourselves, right, and we built a platform ourselves. We got some confidence, and we felt that, hey, we can really teach web development to people, because we have already done that, and we have been doing so because we there is website, there is your student learning platform, there is a platform for our internal teams, right, so that they can manage operations easily. And then there is, let's say, a coach platform as well. So we have been focused on building this entire ecosystem, so that we can impart or give quality education to our students, right? So that is more or less about myself. So so I hope that's pretty clear now. So let's go ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about our first thing, right? So what is even web development, right? So to answer this question, okay, we need to first talk about what is software development. And in fact, even before we ask what is even development, right? So I need to ask myself, what is even software? Okay, so does anyone have any idea? Does anyone have any idea what is even a software? किसी को पता है? बता सकते हो? In simple terms, right? So what is even a software, right? Can anyone try to attempt and answer that? So let's think about it in a different way, right? So suppose, so see, the idea is overall, if you think about the world that we live in, right, the digital world that we are living in, and we're surrounded by electronics and whatnot, right? So on one side we have computers, okay? On one side we have computers, okay? And one side, of course, we are humans, right? Of course, humans have invented computers, but they are not humans themselves, right? Computers also have certain limitations, right? So suppose I am talking to you as of now in English, and you are able to interpret and understand whatever that I'm saying, right? You're able to understand all of that. And so this is the language set that we talk, and we are able to relate and understand whatever that one person is saying to, let's say, person A is saying to person B. Okay, so we are able to understand all of that when I speak, let's say, in Hindi, and if the other person understands that, or maybe I can speak in English or any other, let's say, language, right? But now here, one of the most important thing that we want to basically solve is, how do these entities communicate, right? So how do these two entities, right, communicate? So of course, I can build, let's say, some application. For example, let's say I can build like a YouTube like platform, right? There's no issue, right? I can build a YouTube like platform. All right. So, but how does it work, right? Or maybe I can have, let's say, something like, I can have this ID, right, where I can essentially code. So so there are all of these applications, and of course you can, let's say, type in something, click something, and you see the corresponding result, right? But of course computers are not that straightforward, right? They are not literally interpreting, let's say, the meaning of my click or whatever that I'm performing the action on my application. Okay, so it's relatively difficult to talk to a computer. That's what I'm trying to tell you, right? It's relatively difficult to talk to a computer because they have their own mechanism, the way they have been developed and evolved, right? So they have, of course, today, with the help of AI, I can tell computer to do something, let's say, in a natural language, and computers can do that. Okay, so there has been a lot of, let's say, development in generative AI, LLMs, right, where a neural, or a natural language interface has sort of like really evolved, right? So I can type in something and it can do that task for me, right? Earlier I had to, let's say, maybe do a lot of extra set of things. Of course, as of now, it is also doing that, but the way it is doing it is sort of really hidden from us in a way. Okay, so cool, हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं, no worries, अमित. ठीक है. So the point is, what is the even genesis of software? Software क्यों required है? Because there are two entities, computers, right, which are like really magnificent at doing a lot of computations, right? So they're not just there to, let's say, do simple multiplication or division, right? But they can do a whole lot of, let's say, mathematical calculations. They can generate, let's say, 3D graphics when you're playing, let's say, a game like FIFA, right? Computers can do that. How is it doing? So the the pixels that you're seeing on the screen, right? What is that pixel going to be, right? It is a lot of that is being determined by something in the background. Okay, so overall इन दोनों को communicate करने के लिए we need to develop some instruction code. Okay, so we need to develop some instruction code. Okay, so let me just so so we need to pass in some set of instructions, right, to perform some task or some single task, maybe a multiple task, right? But the idea is I need to, as a human, right? I need to pass to my computers a defined set of instructions so that it can perform some task, right? Can you guys list in the chat क्या क्या task कर सकते हैं हम लोग? आप लोग बता सकते हो क्या क्या task कर सकते हैं एक let's say अगर जो यहाँ पे मैं बोल रहा हूँ ना to perform some task, मैं कंप्यूटर से क्या क्या काम करा सकता हूँ? Can anyone tell me, right? What are the tasks that we can get done with a computer? Okay, just simple examples. बताओ आप लोग chat पे. So what are the tasks that we can hope or expect a computer to do? All right, so let's say you want to play games. You want to play games, so you can do that. So you can play games. Maybe you can, let's say, run Excel, or let's say run Excel, right? If people use Excel, Excel is an application. Okay, so maybe I would want to, let's say, do some sort of analysis, and there is an application that I want to do, right? Of course, at the core, an instruction is basically some set of operations that my I want my computer to do, right? So basic operations उनको करना है. So let's say कि कोई number add कर लिया, या let's say ये algorithm उसने solve करके, let's say I want my computer to solve an algorithm and solve a particular problem, right, via certain algorithm. So suppose, let's say I want to find the shortest path between 2 points. So I know an algorithm, and then I can ask my computers, hey, take this recipe, take this algorithm, and tell me how can I find the shortest path between, let's say, 2 points. There could be a lot of, let's say, other requirements, but the thing is computers are like really exceptional and smart at doing a lot of, let's say, good calculations. So I can run videos, I can, let's say, play videos on my computer as well, right? I can hear audio, maybe I can open an image, I can create a file. Maybe that is also an instruction. I want to create a file in my system, and there has to be a certain way so that my computer sort of understand. Most of the time, let's say, when we are giving this instruction set, we are often using this application layer. So एक application होता है जहां पे मैं कुछ लिखता हूँ and दिखता है, right? या कुछ करता हूँ and then I click somewhere, I save, I find, I zoom in. I can do a sort of stuff through my application layer, and then my computers are basically going to reciprocate with the expected response. But what happens under the hood, right? Who is given, right? How is this even instructions given to my, let's say, computer, right? So of course, as of now, we can really um, say that a software is essentially going to be a set of instructions which we want to perform some task, right? And and the way we want to write this set of instructions, right, in the software is via something called a programming language. So एक set of instruction लिखने का एक तरीका होता है, right? एक तरीका होगा जहां पे आप एक particular language में आप लिखोगे, and then that language is designed and developed keeping in mind that it can talk to computers easily. Okay, so how computers, of course, work, and how software even works, that's a very detailed thing that will take a lot of time to understand. But the idea is a software is essentially some instructions that I can provide to my computer, let's say in some language, maybe in JavaScript or in Python or maybe in C, and they can do something, right? So of course they're also doing a lot of things under the hood. So so they're accessing the operating system, they're accessing the computer's resources like memory, and there could be like a lot of, let's say, other bits as well. Okay, so this is what essentially software is. So the field of software development concerns itself with developing software. Okay, it could be any programming language which could be designed for some specific task. So let's say I want to build or train huge machine learning models, I would want to, let's say, use Python, or maybe, let's say, Python primarily. But let's say if you want to build web applications, you would want to use JavaScript. Okay. So software development is the field of developing software, where I can write that software, let's say, in a single language or in, let's say, multiple languages, and that is what it is primarily. Okay. So now I want to ask another interesting question, right? So what is the kind of softwares that we know, right? So where are we running softwares, right? Can we understand some examples? So where are we running softwares, right? So we are full of so many devices around the world where we are running some software essentially, right? So what do you think? What do you think, right? Where are we running softwares? Okay, कहाँ कहाँ पे run कर रहे हैं आप बताओ, कुछ idea है, right? So you're of course running it on your laptop, right? So you might have certain applications on your laptop or PC. You have an operating system that is also a software, okay? And then you'll have, let's say, you can run, let's say, you can have applications in your mobile phones, okay? And you can run software there, okay? um, just give me a second. Yeah, sorry guys. All right, so we are running softwares on a lot of, let's say, devices. I gave you an example of a laptop, mobile, right? What else, right? What else comes to your mind? And for example, you go to a doctor and let's say you get a CAT scan done, right? That's also using some software, okay? I'm going to ATM to withdraw my money, or maybe I'm paying through phone pay. That's also a software, okay? That's a software. And ATM specifically, they're running a specialized kind of software, right? Which might be different from the regular mobile application that we might see, right? You might have heard about, let's say, Las Vegas Sphere. कभी किसी ने देखा ये? Has anyone seen Las Vegas Sphere? एक बार देखते हैं, चलो. Okay, so has anyone seen this sphere? So, so we are, let's say, trying to, let's say, display certain video, or let's say certain graphics or certain images on this very huge, let's say, LED display. So I might need, let's say, some special software, right, which can process the video appropriately so that it can be rendered, let's say, smoothly. Okay. So this is where also we are running software. Okay. So we are essentially are surrounded by this world where we cannot imagine our life without software, right? So it has pervaded so deeply in our lives. Okay. Another example would be, let's say, you're traveling, right? You often travel from, let's say, you're traveling from Delhi to Bangalore, and you would be flying by an airplane, right? A usual airplane, right, or regular airplane runs, let's say, around 97 or 95% of the time on autopilot, right? What is even autopilot? That is also a software, right, which is gathering a lot of data with the sensors regarding, let's say, speed, altitude, temperature, and there could be a lot of things, right? It's measuring and gathering all of that data, and then it is trying to steer the plane based on that, right? So there is some software which is doing all that kind of stuff, right? So we are running softwares primarily on a lot of things. For example, we also have smart watches, or maybe we have smart fridges. They are also running some specialized software. Okay, so that's why they're smart. Otherwise, they're just completely, let's say, electromechanical in nature. Um, all right. Okay, so this is what softwares are. Now, or not essentially, these are softwares, but these are the places where we are essentially running softwares. We are executing, let's say, some code so that we can get certain output, right? On an airplane, maybe the pilot would need different kind of, let's say, modus operandi, and the requirement or even the need for software, what kind of software needs to be built. That will be like pretty specific to all of these different use cases. Now what we really need to concern ourselves is one special kind of software. Okay. And in fact, if you think about, right, so softwares are also of different kinds, right? So you will have something called a system software. Okay, you will have something called a system software. You might also have something called an application software, right? So system software would be, let's say, something like your OS, you're using certain drivers, etc. Okay. Application software would be, let's say, the application that you're running on, let's say, your computer. It can also be, let's say, your browser. A browser is also an application software, right? Through which I can access my internet. Of course, I can also access the internet via terminal, but the more user friendly way of, let's say, accessing the internet is your regular browser. Okay, and so now there is a special kind of, let's say, applications we really want to concern ourselves with, right? So one is the, hang on. Okay. So there is one specific type of applications we want to really focus on, and that is basically web applications. Okay. So what are these web applications? So applications which run on your browser, as simple as that, right? So applications which run on your browser. This is what web applications are. Okay. So let's say I have a software called, let's say, Slack, right? It is a desktop app, or maybe I have something called Docker, right? It is also a desktop app, right? But this is not a strictly a web application. Of course, it might be using, let's say, it is definitely having access to the internet, and it's getting or sending the data over the internet. But this is an example of a desktop application, right? It's not purely a web application. Okay. And it might require relatively or maybe slightly different tech stack to develop as compared to your regular web applications, such as, let's say, YouTube, right? So there is this YouTube. In fact, if you go to almabetter.com, right, this is also a web application, right? This is also a web application. So does anyone know what could be the technology that we are using to build or we have used to build our website? Does anyone know? क्या front end में कुछ बता सकते हो आप लोग? Can anyone tell what is it that we might be using in for front end on our website? Does anyone know? Because I'm expecting that you guys are interested in web development, so might know a bit. Okay, Next.js, perfect. Gopendranath. So yeah, we are using Next.js. Great. So this is also a web application. Okay, I won't be able to access. Let's say I don't have an app for AlmaBetter, right? So I cannot install an app and open it like how I was able to open Docker Desktop. Okay, this is not like a desktop application. It is only accessible as of now if I go into the browser and search for, let's say, AlmaBetter or almabetter.com, and eventually I will come to this website, right? So this website, right, is essentially a web application, right? Of course, this is an unauthenticated application, right? So let's say whoever lands on this page, right, I might not know who is that, right? So some people might, let's say, browse or, let's say, go through, let's say, different pages. I might not know exactly who they are, right? Maybe later on I could have figured out, right? After, let's say, someone signs up with me, I can maybe connect the dots of the past and eventually figure out what this person could have done. But as of now, I don't have any idea who is doing what. I might have some statistical idea overall. Okay, these many people, they visited these many pages and they spend around roughly average duration and all of that, right? But so applications could be of different kind. You can have, let's say, a simple non-logged in application like a simple website such as almabetter.com, and then you can also have something called a logged in application, right? Which is, for example, your grow.almabetter.com, right? So if I just click on sign in, I will be taken to this grow.almabetter.com where your entire learning happens, right? This is where you're going to complete your program, have everything that you need for your program and resources, everything you're going to have in this platform, right? So you can see that there is a learn tab where you can see your curriculum. But now here the interesting thing is, so let's say, as someone who has published this application, someone who is managing and monitoring and developing this application, right? I know that this person named Vikash at the rate almabetter.com, right? He is the one who basically, let's say, went and completed a particular lesson, right? So of course, how we design these kind of systems, right, it's uh, relatively advanced and complex as of now to imagine. But our objective, right, when we are trying to really master full stack web development, I want to really do or understand two things, right? So one is, of course, okay, let me just go back to my, so now know what are web applications, right? And now let's try to talk a bit about, let's say, what is even web development. Okay, so when we talk about full stack web development, okay, so when I talk about full stack web development, I'm essentially talking about certain things that we need to maybe take care of, right? So one is of course the front end, right? The user interface and the user experience that happens when I visit a website or a web application, right? So I can click on a particular resource, and so it's not just a static page, right? It's very interactive. So I can do a lot of things, right? So I can click somewhere, maybe I can click on this, right? So there's a lot of, let's say, interactivity that is built. But this is the front end side of things, right? So whatever that you are seeing on this page, okay, this is the front end side of things, and it will primarily require, let's say, something called HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and maybe if you know, let's say, some advanced front end, so you might, let's say, do use something like React or Next. But this is what front end is, right? So is the user interface which I'm seeing. So the first component of our full stack web development is the front end, right? The interface of my application, right? The one that I'm seeing and accessing, and it might be, let's say, meant for different purpose, right? So for example, grow.almabetter.com is meant for, let's say, studying and completing a course and attending your classes, while YouTube, it is meant for, let's say, watching videos and doing other stuff, right? You can also do live stream and all. Okay, cool. So this is of course the front end part, right? One other important thing that I want to tell here is the backend bit. Okay, so backend is where I try to conceal my, let's say, business logic. Okay, backend is where my main services or my main business logic is running, more or less. My data is stored there. Let's say it could be user specific, or there could be, let's say, the content is also hosted there, right? So whenever I go to, for example, grow.almabetter.com, right? So I'm essentially requesting for my content, right? Or whatever that I'm done, or whatever that I have access to, I'm essentially requesting for that content on my front end. Now how, what is this, where is this content stored, and how is that content going to be delivered to you, right? If I do something, there would be something that is going to happen at your account level, right? So all of that logic, everything is being managed in the backend, right? So backend will have, let's say, your main services. It will, let's say, you will be writing your main APIs, which will be exchanging information between your front end and backend. Okay, and then you'll be having your databases where you're going to store your data. You might be having your let's say, specific content database. For example, in the case of AlmaBetter, there's a lot of content that we have to store in a different way, slightly altogether. So so that is one other part aspect of our backend, right? So your entire web application, right, it is not just what you are seeing, right? The most important interplay here is basically, let's say, managing data, right, or managing information. That is what entirely all of the programming reduces down to. How do I manage or manipulate information, right? Because whatever that I'm seeing, it is some information, right? It could be some number or date or some string data. It could be something that I need to see, right? Because this is part of my, let's say, privilege or access to this platform. But overall, what we are trying to do here is manipulate some sort of information at some level, right? And that is what programming is more or less all about, right? So I take in certain inputs and maybe churn it, manipulate it, and then transform it, and then let's just send out the expected response overall, right? Uh, so this is what full stack web development more or less looks like, right? So I have, hang on. So I have a front end and I have a back end, and then of course there is the middle layer. And let's say all the information can be carried by, let's say, something called an API, right? So I will make a request, right? And my API is going to go to my backend and do something, and then get the fetch the expected response and then send it to me. So in the middle you'll have something called the APIs, right? And APIs are essentially the backbone of the internet, right? Because they are the ones who are exchanging information between client and server all the time, right? So let's say, as a user, I am a client, right? I am a client, and I'm trying to, let's say, do something on it, right? And then the server is essentially my backend regime or backend place, where I'm doing all this. Let's say I'm hosting my services, I'm running my code, I am having my databases, and then like multiple things which are happening there. Okay. So a simple useful analogy to understand this would be, think of a restaurant, right? So think of a restaurant that you're going. Okay. So you go to a restaurant and there is a, let's say, a table, where you let's say this is a table, right? And of course I'm not so great at drawing things, but let's say that you go to a restaurant and you sit here, right? You are this person, and then there is a kitchen, right? So there is a kitchen of the restaurant. Okay, so you sit on the table, you look at the menu, and then you want to of course eat food, right? So you're going to request for some food, right? You're going to request for some food, right? So you'll specify your request, as in what kind of food you want. You might want, let's say, one paneer butter masala and then maybe some naan. So you're requesting for this food, right? Who is taking this request? So this request is being taken by this something, by this guy called waiter, right? So waiter is going to take your request and it is going to forward this request to the kitchen, right? And kitchen is like my backend, right? Which is not, let's say, accessible to me easily, and I don't know exactly what is happening there, but my food is going to be prepared, right? So that the thing that I have requested for, it is going to be prepared, and let's say the nature of whatever that I'm expecting to receive will be happening in my kitchen, in my backend, right? And once my food gets prepared after a certain time, right? Let's say maybe after 10 or 15 minutes, it's it basically it is being sent back to the waiter, right? So the waiter then carries that prepared food and then delivers it to your table, right? So of course this might take around, let's say, 15-20 minutes. If I'm talking about, let's say, getting some food at a particular restaurant, so you might take that amount of time. Of course, when we are doing something called a network request, we are probably going to even take, let's say, just milliseconds, right? So we're not going to take 15-20 minutes. We're going to take around some milliseconds to do, depending on the nature of the request, right? So maybe if you have ordered, let's say, a whole lot of food, right? You could be requesting for a whole lot of information, that might get some time to get processed and then being delivered, right? Because you're not just saying that, hey, I want a lot of food and I want a lot of information, but so it's not just the size of the information, but the services which will be running to, let's say, execute whatever that you're expecting, or execute the code that will send you the appropriate response, right? So we are in that particular zone here, right? So waiter is like an API in this case, right? He is the, or she is, let's say, the middle layer, right? Or she is the middleman, who is sort of taking the request from the front end or the user and then forwarding it to the kitchen to be prepared. Once the kitchen is done with the food, it will just send that food, let's say, to the waiter, and then the waiter will serve it to the table, right? So now I have the food which I essentially came to the restaurant for. So for example, I want to see some content on almabetter.com. It is not just going to be visible, right? Because I visited. When you're visiting almabetter.com, क्या हो रहा है? अगर almabetter.com में अगर visit कर रहा हूँ, I'm essentially requesting for a lot of information. Okay, so if you go to network tab and you reload here, so I'm basically requesting, right? So you'll see I'm requesting for a lot of information, right? And if you see, if I go to, let's say, so if I go to all, I'm requesting for a lot of information, right? And one, so I'm requesting for images and whatnot. But if you look at fetch slash xhr, right? So these are essentially your API calls. So for example, you are in this masterclass, right? So I'm getting this data from this API, right? You can see. So I'm getting this data from somewhere, like, from this API, more or less, right? And what is the response? So you can see that this was our today's masterclass, right? And you can see that this data is in this different format. We don't know about this format. You'll later learn that this is a JSON format, and I have a lot of data, right? So of course, when I'm visiting almabetter.com, I, as a developer of the application, right, I am making a lot of requests on your behalf, right? Because I'm expecting that if you're coming to my website, you might be interested in this kind of information. And that is what I'm essentially doing on your behalf, right? So you're not saying that, hey, send me data for all the master classes, right? But I am anyway requesting for that, because if you have visited my website and it has a lot of, let's say, pages, so if you go to events, I need to pull that information, right? Because so I need to make a request via that API so that this information can sort of get delivered to me. Okay. ठीक है, आ रहा है आप लोग को समझ में? So we are using Azure, yes. So we are using Azure and AWS for, let's say, cloud infrastructure. Okay, others, we are using that. We're also using GCP to some extent. Cool. Okay. All right. So I hope everyone now understands basic about what is even full stack web development, right? So anything which will help us build a good front end framework or front end, let's say, interface, whatever that will help me build a good back end application. And then I'm also taking care of everything in middle. Okay. So this is what essentially a full stack web development looks like, right? But I want to go into the depths of this, right? And now I want to talk about the roadmap, right? So now you have some basic idea. We now want to discuss, right, what is the roadmap. Okay, so full stack web development roadmap. Okay, so let's go step by step what we need to do and what we need to learn, right? So let's go ahead and revisit that. Okay, so the first of all, what I really tell you, right, because we want to do some development, right? And development will essentially mean that I'm sort of trying to develop some software, and a software will essentially be written in some programming language, right? So I need to pick up some programming language which will help me accomplish this task, right? And luckily, we have a friend here, right? So we can learn JavaScript, right? So learn JavaScript. So this is the language of the web, right? And JavaScript is arguably, I think, the most popular language in our world right now. And so people are building a whole lot of web applications using JavaScript. Of course, there are like other frameworks like Ruby on Rails, or there could be other stack through which you can build, let's say, your web applications. But JavaScript and the allied frameworks have become a very popular choice for developers to build any kind of web application. So in fact, the stack that we are also using is very JavaScript oriented, right? So the first thing that we want to do is learn and master JavaScript, right? And you would want to also learn about something called npm and node. Okay, so I'll just give you a basic idea what is the difference between Node and your vanilla JavaScript. So when JavaScript was invented, okay, it was primarily meant to run on browser. Okay, it was meant to run on a browser like, let's say, Firefox, or maybe Chrome, or let's say Netscape Navigator, the browsers that we had back in the days. Okay, so but now, um, after, let's say a decade of development, right, we got Node, through which we could run JavaScript on server or on machine, right? So it was not just having access to the browser environment, but now it had access to a whole lot of, let's say, the machine environment through which we could do a lot of things, right? So maybe I would have access to do a lot of, let's say, file operations, or maybe, let's say, do some task, let's say, or assign some task, or manage how the OS handles. Maybe I can do certain bit of things, right? So Node was developed so that we could run JavaScript on a server or on a machine. Okay. Earlier, the vanilla JavaScript was primarily meant to run on your browser. Okay. So we moved a bit from there. Okay. The next thing that you can do, right? And of course, in JavaScript, there's a lot of things that we want to understand. JavaScript started out as a scripting language, but as of now, with the latest introduction via ES6, right, which is the ECMAScript 6, we finally know that it is an object-oriented programming language. Okay, though there are like certain quirks about it, but as of now, people really concur and agree that JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language. Okay, maybe not exactly everything is an object in JavaScript, but most of this stuff is, right. And it has a lot of, let's say, interesting behaviors and properties around how to handle and manipulate these objects. Okay, so for example, the JSON data that I showed you, it is a JavaScript object, right? In fact, JSON full form is JavaScript object notation, but it is not exactly what JavaScript even understands, right? So JSON is a web standard for exchanging information, and other languages also understand what JSON is, right? So JSON has become like a very popular format to exchange data over the internet. Like earlier, we used to also have XML and all, but now JSON is a very popular format to exchange data, right? So I want to send some data from server to client, so I can basically send it, let's say, in a JSON format. So do we have to learn AI as well in web development? No. So we don't need to learn AI, but we must incorporate AI in learning web development, right? And the and the most important thing I will encourage you. Hang on. Is install cursor ID. Okay. So why cursor ID? I'll just give you a basic idea, right? So just go to cursor.com, right? What you can do, you can just go to cursor.com, okay, and you can just download for free, right? It is the most advanced AI integrated code editor, right? What is even a code editor? So now, because we are on this topic of developing, let's say, a software, right? So we want to write this in some programming language, and we will want to write our code in some code editor, right? So what? So I think you might know about VS Code by Microsoft, or you might know about, let's say, IntelliJ or WebStorm by IntelliJ. But I would prefer that you start using cursor, right? Why? I'll tell you, right? I'll tell you a very simple example. So maybe I'll just open a repo. Okay. I'll just tell you quickly what it does, right? So let me just open this AB mentorship stack. This is our own code base for, let's say, for mentorship that we provide, right? So we have built our in-house stack. Now what I can do, right? What I can do, I can, let's say, cut this, and you can see on the top you have something called a toggle AI pane. Okay. So now what I can do, I can say that, hey, can you explain, can you explain what this code base do or does? Okay. So this is what I'm saying. Now I have multiple options. First of all, let's see, I've selected something called Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So it is the most advanced LLM for coding. There is also GPT-4o, GPT 3.5 by OpenAI, but Claude is by Anthropic, and this is the best model I feel that is currently there for coding. So you can use this, okay, and then you can click on Chat with Codebase. Okay, you can click on Chat with Codebase. So when you do this, it is gathering a global context of all the files in our, let's say, uh, code base, right? And then it is going to basically, so you can see it. So to understand a complex code base has even become very easy. So this is just one part of it, right? So this code base appears to be part of a mentorship or coaching platform, primarily focused on managing bookings between students and coaches. So we can do booking management, question management, user management, email notification, rating system, integration with external services such as Slack, calendar event, video conferencing such as 100 ms, right? So we're using 100 ms for the video communication or video conferencing that you do in your mentorship or mock interviews. And then there are like admin functions as well. So I can understand, and maybe let's say I want to maybe update certain code, right? So maybe let's go in certain, maybe let's say, let's go to services maybe somewhere, right? Or I'll go to packages, and maybe let's go to this booking.js, right? Now I can also do something interesting. Okay. So for example, what I can do, I can select this, right? I can select this. So maybe let's say this is my function. Okay. So I can just, you can see there are two options I'm getting: add to chat and edit, right? So I will say control command K, and now I can basically, I can say, can you uh, refactor this code, or optimize it, something like this, right? I'm naive, I'm just putting whatever that comes to my mind, I can just do that. And so you can say that, yeah, it's just doing all of that. Okay, so you can see, and maybe I can accept. So if I accept, so you can see that there is certain change that I have been able to do here. Okay. So, and I can keep asking. So if I need to generate some code or do some improvement, because I'll tell you, right? I'll tell you honestly, right? So there is uh okay. So let's say if I go live here, right? So there is a local server that I've not this. Okay. So hang on, index.html. I'll just show you, right? So maybe I'll just dispose this now. Let's say, okay. So you can see I developed this, right? This very basic application. It just took me like 5 minutes, right? You wouldn't believe me. I just need to know what I am doing. I need to know how to supervise the code generated by, let's say, the AI. I just need to know all of that. I need to know uh, what kind of code. So where am I going to write this kind of code? What do I need? So I know the basic constructs and the basic requirements, and then I can offload, let's say, a shelf of tasks to, let's say, AI, right? And there's no disadvantage to it, right? The idea is we must know the process. We must be like really smart enough to have a say, let's say, have a say whatever, or supervise whatever the AI is saying, right? So maybe I don't have to accept it, but I have to also supervise and see, does this make sense? But if it makes sense, right, and more often than not, it's better that we start using them so that we can, let's say, do our work more effectively and quickly. Okay, because we don't want to get trapped in a lot of, let's say, redundant code. The idea is we need to have a good understanding of how the entire set of things will work. What synchronization would I need? What are the essential elements that I need, or blocks, so that I can build this application? All right, so I would really encourage that you use Cursor AI, right? Okay, so you can use Cursor AI. All right, let's go ahead. So we're talking about, the first thing is we want to learn JavaScript, and we can use, let's say, we can resort to maybe a AI integrated IDE such as Cursor. Now let's talk about the next thing, right? What is it that we can do? So next is, I'll just delete this. So learn HTML. So HTML is basically um, a document standard, in a way, right? Or is a it's not exactly a programming language, it's a markup language which will help us build some web page. Okay, so HTML is the raw document that I see on my browser, right? And then I have something called CSS, right? So CSS is a cascading style sheets, and it adds a lot of beauty to your web application, right? So there are like certain components you can see. So if I go to my home page, you can see that there are different components, right? So CSS helps us, let's say, improve the aesthetics of our web page, and improves the layout as well. Okay, all right. So the next thing is, of course, we want to also understand how how we can combine JS on top of our core HTML and CSS, and build an interactive web application, right? So this is what you need to focus on. And then, of course, you want to maybe learn about certain frameworks or libraries such as React and Next. So Next के बारे में पढ़ सकते हो. So these are the things that you want to do, and after this, I think, or even prior to this, you can learn about Git, which is basically a version control system. So what is version control? So for example, let's say you're working in a team where, let's say, there are 5 developers, right? You're working on a particular feature. So each of the developers, they're working on a specific aspect of that feature, right? And of course, there's going to be a single code base where I'm going to that is going to run my essential entire logic. Okay, so if they're working on the same code base, we need to make sure that there is an efficient system in terms of how we are managing the version of our code base, right? Because people can be making certain contributions then and now. So developer 4 can actually finish up his task earlier, and push the code to the code base, right? And then maybe there would be other developers who would be behind, and there could be, let's say, a lot of, let's say, issues as well in terms of managing codes being pushed by multiple, let's say, members in your team, right? So that's why we want to learn about Git, which is a version control system, and specifically, we can use something called GitHub, right, which is an application which uses Git. So learn this. So if you know all of this, you can expect that you are able to do good sort of front end development. Okay, so these are the core things that you need to know if you really want to do front end development. Okay, अब आगे का क्या है कहानी? So then, once you are done with this, you can then learn Node. Okay, so Node.js learn कर सकते हो, I told you. Then there is an Express library, or maybe a framework you can call, which will help us, let's say, uh, gain out of the box capability to easily spin up, let's say, web servers, and build routes and controllers. So backend जब आप पढ़ोगे, You will understand routers, so which handle basically more or less or define our APIs. We then have controllers. These are like my main let's say API logic. This is where I'm writing those. I will have access to models. Models are essentially the schema, how my data is going to be stored in my databases. Okay, so models sort of define how what is the structure of, let's say, my tables going to be, how am I even going to store some data. And then you're going to have your core services, right, which will handle the main logic of your business. And so this is what you'll know to learn or get started with backend. Okay, so learn Node and Express. Okay, then of course you need to learn about databases, right, because we talked about models. So we need to learn about databases because we cannot imagine our world without data or even databases, right? So SQL or even MongoDB. So maybe people say that okay, this is going to be MERN stack, but of course we are not going to do away with SQL. We definitely want to use something like, let's say, PostgreSQL, or maybe use an ORM like SQLize to talk to a SQL database. So, but understanding databases is important. Okay. Alongside databases, we can learn about something called Redis as well. Redis is also a database, but it is also a cache. It is an in-memory database, so it has its own utility, right? So maybe you can learn about that. The next thing that we want to learn is basically learn authentication. Okay, okay. So I told you that AlmaBetter.com is non-logged in, but grow.almabetter.com is a logged in application, right? Authenticated as, so that means I know who is interacting or who is using my application, right? That is what authentication essentially know, right? So you understand or know the identity of the person accessing your web application. So you can learn something called, let's say, JWT, right? This is one of the common ways through which you can build, let's say, a authentication service, right? This is JSON web token. You might also learn about something called, let's say, SSO, which is single sign-on. So learn about authentication, learn about author. Okay. Also, I would encourage that you learn Linux basics. Okay, so you get familiar with Linux basics. You let's say become very comfortable with terminals. You can do a whole lot of things, let's say, with terminals. So maybe you want to create a file, write a file, update a file. You want to, let's say, connect to a server. You want to connect to a remote machine and then maybe run your code there. You want to copy files from one server to another. So you can use Linux, or let's say your basic terminal, to do all of that. All right, so let's move ahead. So now what's next, right? So now this is, of course, this should be like these are like your really prime fundamentals you should be focusing on if you are really thinking about getting a career in full stack web development. Okay, so learn all of this, but there are like a couple of other things I want to mention. Okay, so what are these? So also let's talk about this, right? So I will say that learn a bit of DevOps as well. ओके, सो डेवऑप्स आपको आना चाहिए, कैसे कोड मैनेजमेंट हो रहा है, सीआई सीडी पाइपलाइन. ओके, सो कोड मैनेजमेंट मे बी, राइट, CI CD pipeline, right? If you don't know what is CI CD, this is continuous integration and continuous deployment, right? So once, let's say, I post my code and I want to automatically deploy it, right? So maybe I can do it by something called, let's say, GitHub Actions, or maybe you can use Jenkins, right? But you can build all of that. Okay, सो डेवऑप्स थोड़ा सा जान कर समझो आप क्या होता है क्या नहीं. ठीक है, लर्न अ बिट ऑफ क्लाउड. ठीक है, सो क्लाउड डेवऑप्स भी आना चाहिए. सो सो क्लाउड के बारे में आइडिया होना चाहिए. व्हाई एम आई टेलिंग यू यू शुड नो अबाउट क्लाउड सच एज, लेट्स से, AWS or Azure. I think someone different asked a question about Azure. So get to know, let's say, some of the very important services which these cloud yeah, providers provide. And hang on. Okay, so see, usually when you're working in a startup, or maybe, let's say, if you think about any big size company, even like, let's say, Netflix, so they are not, let's say, hosting their entire infrastructure on their own premise. Okay, that means they don't own all the servers, but what they do is they host their infrastructure on a cloud provider like AWS, right? In our case, We are also using AWS and Azure and a part of and some bits of GCP as well. So they provide, let's say, inbuilt, ready to use services that I can quickly integrate and manage my infrastructure, right? So I don't have to do a lot of, let's say, tam jam for managing my infrastructure, right? So I don't need to own. I'm focused on a different thing, right? I'm focused on solving the problem, not to build everything by scratch, right? So my objective is not to do or write code everything from scratch for everything that I need, but be smart about it, right? Be smart what we want to really build it. How are we going to even handle the traffic, or how to build scalable systems? How to build really well performant systems? So these are the things that I want you to also focus on, right? So if you think about AWS, you might know about EC2. This is just like a virtual machine where you can run your code or do something. You can also learn about serverless, right, or Lambda functions. So serverless is also another way to deploy your code. But in this case, as opposed to your EC2, we don't have to manage our virtual machine. AWS does on its own. Okay, so it's not exactly devoid of servers. It's just that I don't need to manage my own servers, right? You might know about S3, which is simple storage service. So I can store some files, I can store some videos, some images, some data in a S3 bucket. Okay, so S3 पढ़ सकते हो. You might also want to read about, let's say, CloudFront, which is a CDN. So if you are interested, so you might want to also learn about what is a CDN. Okay, so it is short for content delivery network, and this is again a very important concept as well. So there are like tons of other services which uh, okay, so there are like tons of other services which these cloud providers provide, and this is just like very basic of them. You will have something like SQS for queuing. You will have Pinpoint for sending notifications. You will have, let's say, so you'll have access to maybe CloudWatch for monitoring. Okay, so there are like tons of them. Okay, so I, of course, I don't want to go into the detail. And then the last thing that I want to talk finally, right? This is the last piece that we need. Of course, I'm saying learn a bit of, right? You don't have to become a master of it, but you need to have with some idea, some acquaintance with it, so that uh, you are a let's say full-fledged developer, right? And remember, we don't want to just remain a developer, right? Our goal is to become an engineer. Okay, our goal is to become a software engineer, right? So of course we'll start small with, let's say, doing basic development. So we'll become web developers, but the idea is we want to think like an engineer, right? And that requires a whole lot of, let's say, other things as well. Last thing I would say, that learn a bit of DSA. Okay, so DSA is data structures and algorithm. You're definitely going to learn about simple data structures like arrays, let's say stacks, queues, in your first module, which is in JavaScript, and then maybe you'll also learn about, let's say, linked list, or let's say heaps. Okay, or maybe, let's say, trees or graphs. So we'll get some basic idea. We don't want to become experts in this, but we need to be familiar with these objects, right? These are not very difficult. These are being used commonplace in a lot of applications, right? So for example, how JavaScript stores arrays and objects in browser memory is via heap. So heap is interesting. Okay, and then you'll also learn about different types of algorithms. Okay, so this is the last thing that I would encourage that you should know. So learn a bit of DSA, right? So of course, this roadmap might seem a bit daunting, but when you get started, I think you just need to continue with the momentum and focus on what needs to be done, right? So you'll be doing, let's say, certain projects throughout each module. So you'll be also doing a lot of hands-on work, and that is how you're going to, let's say, build a faith. Let's say build that faith in yourself. Okay. All right. So what else? So the next thing I just want to talk about, let's say, what are the what are the, let's say, job uh, requirements or job role requirements. So if I just search for full stack developer jobs, this is what I'll just search. Okay. So maybe let's go to Google Jobs. गूगल जॉब्स पे चलते हैं. अब चलते हैं, देखते हैं कहीं कहीं पे देखो एप्पल बोल रहा है फुल स्टैक डेवलपर चाहिए. क्या चाहिए एप्पल को? डू वी नो एवरीथिंग दैट वी ओके So full stack developer, React, Angular, Vue हो गया. So React आता है अपने को. Experience with at least one backend technology such as Java, Scala, Go, or Python. So if you know Node, that is also fine. And maybe you just need to know the principles of backend. Language is not a dead end, right? So if you know Node.js, I think you can also write Python code, right? That's totally fine. So that's not a problem, I would say. Okay. All right. देखो अभी क्या है, नॉलेज ऑफ सीक्वल. सो सीक्वल पढ़ रहे हो आप. एपीआईज का अंडरस्टैंडिंग होना चाहिए, ये भी पढ़ रहे हो आप. ओके. नॉलेज ऑफ क्लाउड सर्विसेज, ये भी मैंने बताया. फैमिलियर विद डेवऑप्स एंड सीआई/सीडी पाइपलाइन, ये भी बता दिया. Experience with microservices architecture, maybe you don't know this as of now, but over time you'll also get acquainted with this. Let's say familiarity with containerization and orchestration. So Docker पे कैसे deploy करते हैं. So maybe let's say if you know how to deploy on EC2, or let's say using serverless, so then you can also learn this, right? This is not that difficult. Again, problem solving skills, ये तो any engineer should have. Okay. Excellent communication, again, this is good. And not a lot of that, right? So pretty much what we have discussed in the roadmap, this is what companies are expecting, right? And I'm not lying, because let's go ahead and look for some other, let's say, company. Okay. So White Panda, which maybe कोई अच्छा company और देख लेते हैं. Cred. Okay. So Cred is looking for full stack developer. You want to join Cred? What do you need to let's say know? So of course, 4 to 7 years of experience. Maybe let's say they are looking for, let's say, experienced developer. But more often than not, companies would be also okay to have, let's say, people with 1 year of experience as such, right? But what are they expecting? So able to develop both front end and back end, basic UI, CSS, JavaScript, and low code tools, right? Able to understand business, right? But it's straightforward. So they're not expecting a lot, right? They're not expecting a lot. I think it should be like pretty straightforward as of now. Think about this role at crossover. So क्या क्या होना चाहिए? 4 years of experience. ठीक है. Maybe some roles will require a bit of experience. Not all roles, right? So we'll definitely have openings for freshers and all, and you can check that on our group platform. So if you go to job board, right? So you will see. So you can just go to web development, and you can see. Let's say I want, let's say, maybe I want work experience 0 to 2 years, right? So you can see front end development or full stack developer, right? So you can go through all of this, right? So I'm not looking for internships. So I can filter on permanent, and you can just go through them, right? So let's say full stack developer at Taxman, right? Maybe let's say let's click on this. Okay. So what are they expecting? So they're expecting Angular or React, promises callback. You learn in JavaScript, Node and Express, right? I talked about this. MySQL, MongoDB, and Redis, pretty much the same thing. Okay. So overall, see, the idea is you need to really imbibe this roadmap, right? That I've shared with you, and I'll of course share this Jamboard with you towards the end. All right. Okay, so you pretty much know what we need to, what are the companies expecting from a full stack developer, and that is how our roadmap is also planned out. All right, and so so the last thing that I want to talk about is like some basic interview questions, right? So basic interview questions that you can expect. All right. So क्या क्या interview questions पूछ सकते हैं? So for example, let's say if you're learning JavaScript, or if you know JavaScript, people can ask, let's say what are promises and callback, or maybe what are promises? Okay, what is async await? Okay, something like this, right? ये क्यों जरूरत पड़ता है? What is an event loop? Okay, so maybe what is an event loop in JavaScript? Okay, these are like fundamental questions, and you should have a good understanding of this. Okay, there could be, let's say, if you're doing front end, so some people might ask, right, what is the difference between server side rendering versus, let's say, static side generation? Okay, people might ask you, let's say if you're doing some advanced front end, they will ask you, let's say, how do you do, let's say, state management using Redux, or maybe what is even Redux? So you might need to know about this. How to, let's say, design good APIs. how to design good APIs, ये question हो सकता है. These are simple questions. You need to just have a good understanding of how this needs to be done, or how do you improve the performance of a web application. Okay, how do you improve the performance of a web application. Okay, so there could be like a lot of optimizations that you can do. You can do some things on front end, some things on back end. Maybe try to have a balanced approach there. Okay, people might ask you as well, let's say, so what is, let's say, difference between Node versus, let's say, vanilla JS. Okay, so what is the difference between these two? Okay, so, and of course this is just, you can definitely be asked some coding question, because they're definitely looking for a developer, so they would want to test out some coding skills, so that they will give you some functions to write which solve certain problem. Okay, but you need to have like really good understanding of the fundamentals that we discussed in our roadmap. Okay, so this is what we are expected to do, and that is how I think you can think about launching your career in web development in 2024. So if you stick with this particular roadmap, this might take, let's say, 6 to 7 months to really get into the meat of things. But once you're there, I think you can really pat yourself on the back, and because I think you are now a skilled person, a skilled developer, and after just through, let's say, some effort, I think we should definitely be able to get a job. Okay, so that's the whole idea, and of course we need to build our portfolio over time, so we don't have to wait for the end time. We need to keep focusing on building our portfolio. So this could be, let's say, your GitHub profile, it could be your personal website, or it could be your personal YouTube channel. But I would say that invest in these, right? Try to do something so that other people can see that, okay, you are an active developer, right? You are really focused on learning new things and interacting and sharing. So that's a good trait, and I would say that you definitely need to inculcate all of that. Yeah, let's say if you're thinking seriously about becoming a web developer. All right. So I think I'll share this Jamboard. Okay. So I think wait a second. Anyone with the link? All right. So I'll share this in the chat. So this is it pretty much from my side. So I would encourage Kritika from our team. So you can go ahead and take this over. So you can discuss about our platform, and maybe, let's say, there are miscellaneous things which our students might have questions around. Cool. Uh, Kritika, I think yeah, you can get started then. So resume ही select नहीं हो रहा है. Resume भेजो, मैं बताता हूँ क्यों नहीं हो रहा है. So send.
Yeah. Am I audible now? Am I audible, visible?
Yeah, you're audible now.
Okay, thank you so much. So, hi everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session. First of all, before talking anything about AlmaBetter, I would really want to know from each and every one of you, how was the session? Like, did you all enjoy? You have spent 1 hour. How was the session? Was it worth it sitting for 1 hour? So, I need a lot of replies in the chat box. Definitely, then I'll be moving it forward towards the session. But before that, and yeah, definitely let me introduce to you myself. So, hello everyone. I'm Kritika, and I'm one of the admissions head in AlmaBetter, and it is so great to have you all in today's session. But before I start with anything, I would love to know how was the session, people. And definitely for the people who reply me as soon as possible, will get some additional, gifts at the end from my side. So would love to see everyone replies in the chat box. So guys, yes, no, maybe, did you enjoy? Was it worth it? Guys, am I audible, visible to each and every one of you? Okay, that's great. So Gopendra says, yes, that's great to know, Gopendra. Good session and gain some knowledge and right path. Okay, that's great to know, Adarsh. Glad to have you as well on board. Okay, so would love to see everyone, pursuing their career in AlmaBetter. So see, before we wind up with the session, I have a PPT with you to share with you all. Just let me share my screen and then we'll start with the PPT about AlmaBetter and how we function. And people in between, if you have any doubt, feel free to put it in the chat box. I'll make sure that I take all the questions till the end. So any question, any doubt, feel free to put it in the chat box, right? Yes. So I hope my screen is visible to each and every one of you now. So yes, definitely we have done the master class. So how do we function in AlmaBetter? Let me talk about, the entire journey of web development as well as data science that we do in AlmaBetter. So first of all, a community-based learning platform where students can definitely study in groups. For projects also, we divide in groups to learn and get motivated from each other. See, if you do it in a group, no, you see, okay, this person is doing that much, I have to do this much. So that is the reason once you study in group, you get motivated through each other, right? Next is the project in teams. So see, once you complete the program that we have of the 6 months, you have projects in your dashboard. So now we have live data from Swiggy, Amazon, Airbnb, Myntra, Flipkart, Zomato, all these companies. So where you can come in teams and you can practice those projects so that you get a hands-on experience on these companies, right? And definitely get ready for the job. Once you complete the project, you get a hands-on experience in these companies, you get a practical exposure, and then you are definitely ready for a job, right? So what do we cover in AlmaBetter and why AlmaBetter? See, there are n number of platforms if you want to upskill, if you want to take a job guarantee, but why AlmaBetter? So first of all, we do have industry relevant curriculum. We have topics covering from basics to advanced. See, people, what we do is we generally sit with the industry experts. They know like what is the need of the industry, right? So we sit with them, we design the relevant curriculum with them, and then accordingly, we share the curriculum. So we set the curriculum like that. So that is the reason, why AlmaBetter, because you get the relevant curriculum which is covering the topics from basic to advanced. Next is the 100 live classes. See, all the classes in AlmaBetter are live with lifetime access of recordings. So generally the batches, the batch timing is 8 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. in the evening. But if you miss any class, you have the options of recordings. See, for the people who work in US shift or UK shift, or maybe someday if you miss any session, you don't have to worry for that. All the classes are recorded for lifetime and you get the access for lifetime, right? So once you complete the course, like I said, we have projects. So we have 20 plus capstone projects along with all the coding problems and assessment, wherein you get to practice. 5 is mandatory for you, but see, the more you do, the more experience you get when you go for a job. If, for example, if you've done a project in Myntra and you are sitting for an interview in Amazon, so that adds add some other benefit from other students. So that is one thing, which will definitely add value in your CV as well. So I would suggest, do more and more of projects. You gain more knowledge as well as more experience. Next is the daily doubt resolution session with one-on-one mentorship. We do have a one-on-one mentorship session. So with the mentors, you can connect with them. You can ask whatever doubts you have. We do have subject matter experts as well, right? So again, 50 mock interviews with dedicated career coach. So what is this? So once you complete the 6 months program that we have in AlmaBetter, you complete the project and then you complete the test. So we have a test which you have to prepare for, which is ABCAT, AlmaBetter Comprehensive Assessment Test. So once you clear that, now once you come to Alma X, we have 50 plus mock interviews. So basically a dedicated coach is assigned to you. He'll help you to practice all the mock interviews so that once you go for the final interview, you don't have to worry and you'll be more confident about that interview. So that is the reason we help you with mock interviews before you go for the final interview, right? And definitely 100% job guarantee. So currently we are tied up with 750 plus companies. The minimum package that we offer is 5 lakhs. The average is somewhere around 10 to 12. Highest till now from AlmaBetter has been till 33 lakhs till now, right? Okay, so what are the learning activities generally you get in the entire 6 months program? So for technical skills, when we talk about technicalities, definitely we get live lectures, we get lab experiments, we get projects, as I already shared about it, and then definitely the group discussions. For motivation and industry exposure, you get one-on-one mentorship, you get guest lectures. So we are also tied up with renowned IIT Guwahati. So we do get guest lectures from IIT Guwahati mentors as well, and definitely the community participation. And mandatory for Alma X, like I said, once Alma X is all about placement. So once you come to Alma X, you will be placed. But before that, what are the mandatory things that you have to complete? What are the basics that you have to clear? So that is the 6 months program. Definitely the projects which I mentioned, as well as the test. So these are the basics. So once you clear these basics, definitely you'll be shifted to Alma X. Now in Alma X, you will be placed through the placement team. So that is another process. But the basics you have to clear, which is mandatory for you to sit in the placement, right? Okay, definitely. Like I said, we are tied up with 750 to 800 plus companies, right? You can see the number of companies here. We have just mentioned, 12 to 15 companies, but we are tied up with 700 plus companies. So we have Amazon, Uber, we have Novaratis, we have Vedantu, we have Myntra, we have Grow, we have PwC, we have Tech Mahindra, we have Polygon. So these are the companies that we are tied up with. You can see we have more examples like HDFC Bank, CoinDCX, WazirX, Citibank, so Tata Insights, Paisa Bazaar, these are the companies that we are tied up with, right? Now, talking about the salary, definitely, I'm sure this is everyone's, question, ma'am, what will be the salary will I get? So see, like I said, the general minimum package is 5 to 7 lakhs. 19% of the salary distribution comes here. If you are a completely fresher, and see, it's not like that. If you're completely fresher, you will just land a package of 5 to 7 lakhs. It actually depends on you. It actually depends on your skills as well as how many projects you have done. So the student who got 33 lakhs from AlmaBetter, right? He was in a package of 8 lakhs. So from 8 lakhs, he jumped to 33 lakhs. So, it all depends on you as well as on your skills. So 5 to 7 lakhs, generally the package is 19%. 7 to 8 lakhs, you can see the package is 29%. The average, that is 8 to 9 lakhs, it is 37%. 12 lakhs, it is 9 to 10%. And definitely above 10 lakhs, like the when it comes to the highest qualification, it is above 10 lakhs, which is 3%. So make sure if you do the course, do more of projects, do get more of skills, practice more of quizzes, so that you get a hands-on experience as well as practice, and you land a package above 10 lakhs. So, fall in this category of 10 lakh, above 10 lakh. Okay. So talking about the instructors and mentors, so who come and teach in the platform? As I said, we have industry experts who come and teach in AlmaBetter platform, right? So we have Rochit Jain, he's from BCG. You can check his LinkedIn profile as well. We have Ravi Ranjan, who is a data scientist as well. We have Sayan De, he's also a data scientist consultant working in Walmart. We have Ekta Maheshwari working in Accenture. And as well, we have Krishan Indu working in Absolute Data. So these are the industry experts that we have who come and teach in the platform in AlmaBetter. So we have Neeraj Sharma, he's in Microsoft. We have Jyotir Moy from Apple. We have Vijay Singh from Harman. So you can see a lot of people who come and teach in the platform, right? So these are some of the success stories, guys. Even guys, if you check our LinkedIn profile, we keep posting a lot of success stories every now and then. The top success stories. So if you check the LinkedIn profile of AlmaBetter, you will get a lot of people. You can also connect with the alumni and you can discuss with them. And definitely, I've also shared some of the LinkedIn profiles here. So if you want to visit, you can definitely visit the LinkedIn profiles as well. So you can see plays at Paisa Bazaar, Rohan. Arco plays this data analytics in Tata Steel. Again, Shri plays it as junior developer. Yeah. So you can see Vicky plays that Virtusa, and then Sarat plays that as a system engineering. So these are the students who are placed through AlmaBetter and are currently, came from a different background, non-technical background, had career gap, definitely. So they did the AlmaBetter program and now are placed through AlmaBetter. Okay. So before, I share any gifts or anything with you, I would really like to take some questions, and definitely we'll be going through the dashboard walkthrough. I'll just give you a dashboard walkthrough and explain each and every tab of how it functions in AlmaBetter. But before that, guys, any question, any doubt, please feel free to put it in the chat box. And let me share my screen once again. We'll be covering the dashboard as well of how AlmaBetter and your paid dashboard looks like. So no question, guys. Any question, it is not just one-to-one session. Like I just come and I'll just give all the lectures. It is basically to know more about you, as well as if you have any doubts, definitely I'll help you solve that doubts. Okay, So no question, no doubt. Okay, no problem. Let me share my screen once again for now. Yes. So you can see that we have the full stack data science course. I'll just sign in. Just 1 minute. Okay, so this is how your paid dashboard looks like. You can see we have home button, we have learn button. So once you click on learn, you have these are the modules that you have in learn, which is Python, SQL, machine learning. You can see this is about data science. We do have web development as well. You can ping me on my WhatsApp. I'll share all the curriculum brochure with you of web development or data science, whatever you need. So this is the classroom that we have. All the live classes are accessed through this only. Click on access live classroom and you will be redirected towards the live classroom, right? So next is the practice. So what is this practice? So now this is just for you. You can come and practice whatever doubts, questions you have. We have problems from HCL. We have projects from problems from SQL, machine learning, Power BI. You can click any skill and you can do, and you can come and practice, right? Next is the project. As I said, once you complete the course, you have to complete the project. So we have projects from Airbnb, we have projects from Google Play, we have projects from Yes Bank, Netflix, Zomato. So these are the live data that we have of all these companies. So you can practice projects and then you can definitely come to Alma X. So career, what is career in AlmaBetter? It is a foundation track of 6 months as well as the ABK test, right? So once you clear the foundation track of 6 months, you have to clear the ABK test and now you are eligible for placement. Mentorship. When you have any doubt, you want to book one-on-one mentor with any of the subject matter expert, you can just click on mentorship, click on book now. Once you click on book now, you have the options, why do you need a mentor? For interview guidance, for job search, for resume guidance, for academic counseling, for project guidance. Anything you have, suppose you need for interview guidance, just click on the box and then click on next. You'll be redirected towards the one-on-one mentorship session. Next is the job board. Now you can see people, these are the companies that we have who are hiring currently. Everything we have job posted today also. You can see that this is posted on 31st August. We have principal software engineering backend job. We have a business analyst in Hyderabad job, right? So these are the jobs that we have. We have front end jobs. We have Java full stack developer. We have full stack internship in Bangalore. We have data science job. So these are the jobs that we have. You can see Google is hiring data scientists and we are tied up with it. The location is Bangalore when it is just posted yesterday, right? So these are the jobs that we have and we are tied up with these companies. So you can come here and apply by yourself anytime. So this is refer and earn, and this is the community. So we have our own AlmaBetter community, like a LinkedIn community, where all the alumni and all the industry experts are there. So if you have any doubt, any problem, you can definitely come here and you can, just 1 minute. Yeah, you can put all your doubt. This is basically just an open forum of discussion. So anytime if you have any doubt, you can come here and you can discuss all your problems. So this is just an open tab for discussion. Yes, definitely, Adarsh. If you are a 2024 graduate also, you'll be 100% eligible because see, you complete the course, you complete the project, and you'll be placed through AlmaBetter. Okay, so this was all about, the basically this was all about the dashboard that we have. Now, if you are looking for any brochure or curriculum, I'm sharing my number on the chat box. You can ping me on my WhatsApp. I'll share all the brochure, curriculum of data science or web development, whatever you are looking for. And then definitely, if we have a coupon code for today. So for the people who are planning to do it on today, we have a coupon code. Let me share my screen. Since you people are here since 1 hour, so that is why we have a coupon code for you. That is yeah, that is MAANG20. This is an early bird discount since today is 31st. The coupon is valid till today 12 p.m. AM till end of day. So you can use it anytime. And if you have any doubts, feel free to put it in the chat box. And you have my number. I've shared my number, right? So if you have any question, any doubt, you want the coupon code, you want the brochure, you want the curriculum, just feel free to ping me on my WhatsApp. I'll share all the documents with you. Maybe web development or data science, anything, right? Also, any question, any doubts now, please feel free to put me. I got a missed call from one number. Can you please number. People, you can just ping me on my WhatsApp. After this session, we'll take up all your doubts and your calls as well. And you can ping me on my WhatsApp. I'll share all the documents and the WhatsApp, the brochure and everything as well. Manas, all the classes are live. If you miss any class, then you have the recordings, but all the classes happens live, so you don't have to worry for that. No, Gopendra, you will not get Alma quiz. If you refer any student, then you will get referral bonus. So any other doubts you have, people, I'm dropping my number once again. Feel free to ping me hi on my WhatsApp. I'll just share all the brochure, the curriculum, as well as the coupon code with you, so that you can enroll for the program and you can get the benefit of the coupon code as well, right? Okay. So shall we wrap up the session now, guys? Are we all good to go? Any question, any doubt? Okay, so no question, no doubt, right? No, okay, no worries. You can ping me on my WhatsApp. Thank you so much for joining and staying till the end. Have a great day. Take the benefit of the coupon code. For the people who ping me today, I can give you a coupon code of flat 20% off. And any other doubts, if you want to connect with me one-on-one or any doubt, you can ping me on my WhatsApp or call me on the same number after the session. We can connect one-on-one. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.